The Galactic Research Station Velaris 9 had stared down asteroid storms, survived total power grid failures, and even shrugged off a little incident with an unstable wormhole. But one threat, one tiny crawling problem, brought this marvel of engineering to its knees. Skreevants. Picture a cockroach the size of a dinner plate. Now, give it 6 spindly legs, saliva that can melt steel, and a breeding cycle that makes a plague look like a casual get-together. That was a Skreevant. Every advanced species in the galaxy was terrified of them. They ate wiring, devoured food supplies, and chewed through insulation. Basically, if it wasn't bolted down, it was food. Sometimes even if it was bolted down. Station Commander Rilvac had already sent 3 desperate evacuation warnings to the Galactic Council. His officer trembled, reporting, "Commander, another major infestation in Sector D. We've lost the entire hydroponics wing." Rilvac's shoulders slumped. "If we can't stop them, the Council will condemn this whole station." Just then, a cheerful voice cut through the despair. "Hey guys! Heard you've got a pest problem?" Every alien in the room froze and turned. There stood a human. Specifically, Dana Collins, systems engineer and the station's unofficial chaos generator. Rilvac cleared his throat, choosing his words carefully. "Human Dana, this is a severe crisis. We are discussing advanced biocidal protocols, plasma sterilization, perhaps even nanite weaver grids." Dana interrupted, setting down a large crate. "Or we could just do it the Earth way." A soft, questioning sound came from inside the crate. "MEMRRRP?" Rilvac flinched. "What is in that container?" Dana's face lit up like a supernova. "Cats." The room exploded into chaos. "Cats? Those tiny Earth predators? But they're so small." "Wait, I thought humans were afraid of them?" No, that's cucumbers." "Why cucumbers?" "Human logic is a mystery." Ignoring the pandemonium, Dana opened the crate. 4 furry creatures strolled out like royalty. A ginger one stretched dramatically. A sleek black one blinked slowly, judging everyone in the room. A gray one gave a threatening yawn, and a tiny calico kitten chirped at the universe. The entire command staff backed away in a panic. Rilvac pointed a shaky finger. "Those animals are tiny. The Skreevants are huge." Dana just smirked. "You ever seen a cat meet a bug? Size doesn't matter. Only malice does." And with that, the 4 cats strutted out of the command deck like they already owned the place. Hours later, screams echoed down the corridors. Alarms blared. Something skittered. Something hissed. Rilvac peeked nervously around a corner and froze. A Skreevant the size of an armchair crawled across the wall, its mandibles clicking as acid dripped to the floor. It was a monster. And then, a blur of orange fur pounced. Claws, teeth, and pure feline spite descended on the creature. The Skreevant let out one piercing screech before going completely still. The calico kitten trotted proudly behind its ginger companion, carrying a severed Skreevant leg like a war trophy. The aliens watched, their fear mixing with a strange sense of awe. "Is this normal?" a scientist whispered. Dana, leaning against the bulkhead with a coffee, nodded. "Oh yeah, they're just warming up." Within 2 days, the cats had conquered the station. Sectors A through F were now officially declared cat jurisdiction. The hydroponics bay was renamed the sunspot, where all naps were legally protected. The AI navigation computer was occupied indefinitely because the gray cat decided it was the perfect place to sleep. But the Skreevants? Gone. Completely, totally, utterly eliminated. Not a single piece of chitin was left. Commander Rilvac held a formal ceremony. "Human Dana Collins," he declared, "your species has once again defied logic, science, and all known pest control guidelines. Velaris 9 is in your debt." Dana gave a slight bow. "Happy to help." Just then, the ginger cat hopped onto the podium, meowed loudly, and knocked over the ceremonial trophy. Rilvac flinched. Does this have a meaning?" Dana sighed. "Yeah, that's how cats say they accept your gratitude." Rilvac diligently noted this down for future diplomatic relations. Weeks later, the Galactic Council arrived for their inspection. They expected to find a ruined, infested station. Instead, they found cats everywhere, sleeping on consoles, patrolling the air ducts, and glaring judgmentally at the dignitaries. One counselor whispered in horror, "The humans have bred tiny apex predators." Another whispered back, "And they give them milk as a reward?" Dana waved cheerfully. Welcome to Valorous 9. Pest-free, thanks to cats. The ginger cat strutted along the railing, tail held high as if declaring the station the first piece of its new galactic empire. And honestly, it probably was. Because the aliens had finally learned a universal truth. Where humans go, chaos follows. Where chaos goes, cats rule, and pests? They never stood a chance. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tailies from across the galaxy. See you next time. The distress call from Gerald Theta ripped through the combs of Valorous 9, a raw scream of galactic panic. Skreevants, everywhere. Send help, send humans, send the cats. Commander Rilvac, bless his ridged forehead, tried to hold the line of sanity. We are not sending a team of unpredictable fur-based tyrants across the galaxy, but it was too late. I was already zipping up a travel crate as a tiny calico kitten eagerly jumped inside. My ginger cat, a fluffy orange menace, hopped onto the crate like a general surveying his troops. Meanwhile, the black and gray cats had already formed what I could only describe as a murder formation. Rilvac whimpered, the sound of a commander witnessing the end of protocol. We are really doing this, aren't we? I just grinned. Oh yeah. It's time for Cat Squad, Galactic Edition. Departure day was a spectacle. The entire docking bay buzzed with aliens, all gathered to see the launch of a living myth. Some whispered prayers. Others bowed, their heads touching the deck plates in reverence. A few even held up cardboard boxes as offerings. My cats, with the regal indifference only felines can master, accepted the tribute. The gray cat, my stoic leader, inspected the shuttle with professional scrutiny, circled it 3 times, and then, with a flick of his tail, sat right in the pilot's seat. Rilvac's eyes bulged. He wants autopilot privileges. My commander's voice cracked. Absolutely not, but it was too late. With a single deliberate press of a paw, the cat hit a button, the shuttle systems whirred to life. Rilvac let out a full-throated scream. I gave him a thumbs up. He's learned more than your last 3 cadets combined. And just like that, our shuttle launched, carrying 3 terrified aliens. 1 ridiculously gleeful human, and 4 supremely confident cats on a mission to save, or maybe just conquer, another space station. When we arrived, Gerald Theta was a waking nightmare. The lights flickered ominously over walls scarred with acid burns. Down a long corridor, something massive skittered away, hissing like a broken steam pipe. The greeting party looked like they'd seen a ghost. Station Chief Lornell, a being whose antennae were trembling with trauma, ran toward us. Thank the stars! You brought the human! But where are the weapons? She froze mid-sentence. One by one, my cats stepped out of the shuttle. First the ginger, then the black, then the gray, and finally, the little calico kitten. The aliens didn't cheer, they screamed. Are those the legendary small predators? One shrieked. They are even smaller than the rumors saw it. Yelled another. They are perfectly evil-looking. Chief Lornell, recovering from her shock, immediately bowed low. We welcome the Cat Strike Force. My cats just yawned. For them, it was just another Tuesday. Mission accepted. Gerald Theta's problem was way worse than what we'd faced on Valorous 9. The Skreevants here weren't just scavengers. They were an organized army. Deep within the station's central recycling core, their matriarch, a monstrous queen the size of a hovercar, had built her nest, guarded by hundreds of hissing, clicking warriors. I watched the security footage with a professional eye. Yeah, that thing's huge, I said. The cats are gonna love this. Chief Lornell just blinked at me, her multiple eyes wide with disbelief. How can you be so calm? I just shrugged. Look, Earth cats don't hunt because they're hungry. They hunt because the universe annoys them on a fundamental level. As if on cue, the calico kitten, all 3 pounds of her, let out a furious hiss at the queen's image on the screen. I knelt beside her. That's right, baby girl. Show no mercy. Somewhere behind me, Rilvac sighed, a sound of pure existential dread. We called it Operation Paw of Justice. The plan was beautiful in its simplicity. Release the cats into the ventilation system and let chaos ensue. One moment they were there. The next they had vanished into the ducting like 4 fuzzy ghosts on a mission. It took less than a minute. The entire station began to shake with the sound of alien screeches and panicked chittering. Skreevants burst from the vents, fleeing in every direction. Some ran headfirst into bulkheads. Others screamed warnings to their comrades. The small furry nightmares have returned. They jump without fear. Their eyes glow with malevolence. Chief Lornell's jaw was on the floor. They are unstoppable. I just winked at her. Told ya. The security feeds were pure gold. The ginger cat had launched himself onto a Skreevant twice his size, riding it like a rodeo bull through the corridors. The black cat was a shadow of death, ambushing enemies from the darkness. A one-cat special operations team. But the gray cat, he took the prize. He crawled straight into the queen's chamber and, with utter disrespect, sat directly on her face. The queen screamed a shriek of pure outrage. The cat just purred louder. Meanwhile, the calico kitten led the final assault, bounding atop piles of debris, her tiny claws gleaming like miniature swords. Within an hour, the entire hive had collapsed. The queen surrendered, officially. A 3-pound kitten had broken an entire alien army. I don't think the galaxy will ever recover from the sheer humiliation of it all. The aftermath was glorious. The Skreevants retreated off-station, broadcasting a formal, galaxy-wide message of surrender. We concede. We cannot defeat the soft predators. We will now seek a less terrifying galaxy to inhabit. The crew of Jural Theta erupted in cheers. Confetti cannons fired. Someone blasted heroic music over the station's intercom. Someone else fainted when my black cat made direct eye contact with them. Chief Lornell approached me, her expression a mix of awe and terror. We owe you everything. Name your reward. I just picked up my little calico who chirped proudly in my arms. Just one thing, I said. Make sure you feed them well. These warriors run on snacks, and so, a new era began across the galaxy. A pattern emerged. If you had common pests, you called an exterminator. If you had Skreevants, you called in the soldiers. But if you had a full-blown, station-wide infestation that threatened your very existence, you called the humans, and they brought the cats. My feline companions became symbols of fear, respect, and a healthy dose of confusion. The Galactic Council even issued a new directive. Warning: do not engage domestic Earth cats. They are cute. They are fluffy. They are the apex predator. I held up my calico in triumph. Rilvac just groaned. And somewhere out in the deep, cold vacuum of space, the remaining Skreevants huddled together in terror, whispering the story to their young. Beware the soft ones. Beware the hunters. Beware the cats. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more tailies from the Final Frontier. It had been a mere 6 months since the ragtag group known as Cat Squad saved the Jural Theta station. But in that short time, the galaxy had learned a crucial, universe-altering lesson. The terrifying Skreevants, the scourge of civilized space, were absolutely, utterly petrified of cats. This wasn't just a rumor. It became galactic law. The news spread faster than a hyperspace signal, a simple, undeniable truth echoing from the core worlds to the outer rim. Humans bring cats. Cats bring victory. Resistance is... well, it's not just futile, it's downright silly. On the newly secured Velaris 9 station, Dana Collins, now a reluctant celebrity, sipped her morning coffee. The bridge was a scene of controlled chaos. A fluffy ginger cat was lounging across the main navigation console, its tail twitching lazily. A sleek black cat was napping on the weapons array, and a tiny calico kitten was batting at a blinking light on the comms panel. The station was safe, efficient, and covered in fur. Her second-in-command, the usually stoic Rilvac, approached her, his large, multifaceted eyes wide with a mixture of awe and disbelief. He held a datapad as if it might explode. Dana, you're not going to believe this. The Galactic Council wants to give you a formal commendation. Dana blinked, taking another sip of her coffee. A commendation? For what? Saving 1 station? 2 stations? Or just for being generally awesome? All of the above, apparently, Rilvac said, shoving the datapad toward her. A shimmering hologram of the council flickered to life. The stoic, ancient face of a Xylosian chancellor stared out. Human Dana Collins, the voice boomed. Your unorthodox but undeniably effective actions have preserved countless lives and saved billions of credits in structural repairs. The council hereby awards you the Medal of Galactic Heroism. Dana raised an eyebrow. Huh, neat. The chancellor wasn't finished. Furthermore, we formally recognize your companions, the felines, as Tier 1 defense units. Effective immediately. As if on cue, the ginger cat on the console stretched with a theatrical, galaxy-shaking yawn. Dana smirked. Yep, totally deserved. The black cat, suddenly interested, batted playfully at the holographic metal, causing it to fizzle and vanish into a corner. Rilvac muttered under his breath. I don't think they care about the honor. Dana grinned, watching the calico kitten now trying to pounce on the holographic chancellor. Care? Oh, they don't care. They don't have to. They rule. This official recognition came with a very strange and very powerful perk. Dana was given carte blanche, the official authority to deploy cats wherever they were needed. The galaxy, it turned out, needed them everywhere. Distress calls that once signaled doom now read like a shopping list for feline intervention. Stations plagued by Skreevant infestations, outposts overrun with rogue maintenance drones, even cargo ships dealing with stubborn space pest outbreaks, the calls streamed in. Dana's new job title was essentially Galactic Cat Wrangler. She'd load the cats into specially designed, surprisingly comfortable deployment crates, tap a few controls on her datapad, and watch them leap into action. The calico kitten, who had earned the unofficial but widely used title of Supreme Commander Fluff, always led the charge. The ginger black and gray cats would follow, executing coordinated pincer movements and ambush tactics that would make a human special forces commander weep with envy. Skreevants, who built their empire on fear, suddenly found themselves on the receiving end. They didn't stand a chance. Other alien species watched the chaos unfold with a mix of awe, confusion, and raw terror. During a joint operation briefing, a four-armed Galaxian diplomat leaned over to his aide and whispered, Do humans always travel with small domesticated apex predators? Dana, overhearing, just shrugged. Sometimes. But look at them, they're cute. And honestly, that's the scary part. The Galaxian looked at a kitten chasing its own tail and shuddered. By the third month, the ad hoc system had evolved into a galaxy-spanning network. There were now official cat stations, designated safe zones patrolled by feline sentries. There were cat brigades, rapid response teams that could be deployed to any hotspot within a solar cycle. And there were the elite cat strike teams, small units for delicate, high-stakes missions. Every corner of the galaxy, from the bustling trade hubs to the desolate mining colonies, now had a feline presence. The official reports filed by terrified station commanders were the stuff of legend, shared in hushed tones in cantinas across the quadrant. One kitten, a report from Xylos Prime read, took down a platoon of 20 Skreevants in the cargo bay. It used a stack of crates as a tactical high ground. Another from a remote listening post stated, the black cat neutralized a rogue mining drone by simply sitting on it until its power core overloaded. And the most famous one, from the siege of Port Enka, the calico kitten just stared at an entire alien mercenary army. They surrendered immediately. Humans, once seen as chaotic upstarts, were now celebrated as brilliant, strategic organizers. But the cats? The cats were feared as invincible, unknowable warriors. Rilvac, watching the ginger cat demand snacks by systematically pushing datapads off his desk, just shook his head. I still don't know whether to salute them or run away screaming. Dana laughed, picking up the calico kitten and placing it on her shoulder. You still don't get it, Rilvac. This is what we humans do. We don't just manage chaos, we weaponize it. The cats they amplify it. They're chaos amplifiers. Meanwhile, on a desolate asteroid deep in uncharted space, the Skreevant High Command convened an emergency council. The mood was grim. This humiliation cannot continue, hissed one warlord, his mandibles clicking in agitation. Our finest warriors, our most feared legions, are being routed by small, fur-covered quadrupeds. Another, a grizzled veteran of 1,000 campaigns, added meekly, They say one of them fell asleep on a primary generator, and the purring caused a resonance cascade that disabled the entire fleet's shields. Perhaps we should negotiate? Negotiate? With cats? The idea was absurd. You couldn't offer territory to a creature whose primary motivation was finding a sunbeam to nap in. In a final desperate act of self-preservation, they broadcast a message on all galactic frequencies. We surrender, unconditionally, we beg for mercy, just please, do not send the humans companions. The galactic standard for utter and complete humiliation had officially been set. Back on Velaris 9, life had settled into a new kind of normal. Cats patrolled the corridors with silent, fluffy authority. They slept on active consoles, their naps occasionally disrupting sensor sweeps. They batted important documents into recycling chutes, which was now just factored into the station's administrative workflow. Rilvac had, to his own horror, become a reluctant cat servant, running errands for the ginger cat, who had decided the aliens' quarters were the most comfortable. Dana just accepted it. Hey, they keep the galaxy safe. A few misplaced reports are a small price to pay. The calico kitten, Supreme Commander Fluff, perched regally on her shoulder, purring like a tiny, perfectly engineered engine of adorable destruction. Every alien visitor who now came to Valorous 9 left the station with wide, haunted eyes, their minds struggling to process what they'd seen. They were half in awe, half in abject terror. They are gods? One ambassador muttered to his aide after witnessing a cat knock a priceless artifact off a shelf just to see it fall. Dana grinned. Close enough. They nap a lot more, though. As the reports of peace and stability poured in from across the stars, one undeniable truth emerged and solidified into galactic fact. Humans were unpredictable. Humans brought chaos. Humans brought bewildering ingenuity, and humans brought cats. No pest, no invasion, no rogue Skreevant army could stand against them. On the bridge of Valorous 9, the calico kitten stretched, yawned, and then decisively batted at a nearby holographic map of the galaxy. Its tiny paw landed squarely on an unexplored sector. It was clearly plotting its next conquest. Dana smiled, stroking the kitten behind its ears. Ready for the next mission, Commander? The kitten, and every other cat on the bridge, purred in thunderous agreement. And somewhere, deep in the dark recesses of space, a terrified Skreevant survivor huddled in the shadows, muttering to himself. The soft ones, the furry destroyers. They are everywhere, and we are doomed. Because in the galaxy's new, slightly furrier order, the rules were simple. Humans rule with ingenuity, cats rule with claws, and no pest, alien, or cosmic horror ever stands a chance. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more tailies from the strange and wonderful galaxy. Jane arrived first. A slow, throbbing pulse behind her temples, like distant drums echoing through a cavern. Then warmth, something soft pressed against her arm, and finally a tiny voice, trembling and impossibly close. You're awake, human. You're awake, right? Sarah forced her heavy eyelids open. A blurry face hovered only inches from her enormous golden eyes, pupils wide with worry and small tusks quivering. It was a young brass cub, maybe 7 cycles old, kneeling beside her on the cold metal floor. Viri? Sarah croaked. The cub's entire body seemed to puff up with relief. You are awake. I waited, the others told me to leave, but I didn't. I stayed right here. Sarah's vision steadied. She was in the ruined passageway of the station walls, scorched, emergency lights flickering. The last thing she remembered was shoving Viri into a maintenance alcove and turning to face the collapsing bulkhead. Apparently she hadn't gotten out of the way in time. Her ribs ached. Her left leg was pinned under a heavy beam. She tried to sit up and nearly blacked out. No move! Viri squeaked, placing both paws on her shoulder as if he could hold her down by sheer will. The med teams are coming. The bulkhead sealed, but I smelled blood, so I came back. Sarah swallowed hard. You came back for me? The cub's ears folded tightly. Of course, you saved me first. Humans weren't supposed to form attachments with Brask young. Their culture was strict about hierarchy and guardianship, but somehow, this little cub had decided she counted as pack. And Brask pack loyalty was absolute. Her chest tightened, and not from the injury. Good job, kid, she whispered. Viri's eyes brightened with pride, but his paws trembled. He kept looking at her leg, at the slowly spreading pool of red beneath it. Did I do wrong? He asked suddenly, his voice that of a cub expecting punishment. Sarah reached out and tapped his forehead gently. No. You did brave. He sagged in relief. Humans always say that, even when things are bad. They're not that bad, she lied. Just need to get this beam off. A shrill alarm cut her off. Deeper within the corridor, the decompression warning. The sealed bulkhead wasn't stable. Sarah tensed. Viri, we need to get you out of here, now. The cub shook his head violently. No, I won't leave you again. You have to, she insisted. If the seal breaks, but I just got you back awake. His voice cracked, and tears collected in the corners of his eyes. You can't go to sleep again, you can't. Her heart twisted. She remembered him as the cub who used to flinch at every loud sound when she first joined the research crew. She taught him to build toy gliders and translated human jokes for him. Now he was refusing to leave her to die. Sarah clenched her jaw. Listen to me, Virai, I need you to do something important. The cub went still, his ears flicking forward, instinct taking over. I need you, she continued softly, to go to the emergency junction and override the seal. That will vent pressure into the side ducts and keep the wall from collapsing. Can you do that? Virai blinked. That's a senior engineer task. I know. She smiled, but you've been watching me work for months. Remember all those questions you asked about pressure flow? The cub straightened, looking both terrified and honored. I remember. Good, then go. That's an order. He froze. But if I leave you, I'll be right here when you get back, she lied again. Now go save us both. This time Virai didn't argue. He pressed his forehead briefly against her arm in a gesture of courage, then sprinted down the corridor. When he disappeared, Sarah let the false smile fade. She didn't know if the override would hold, but giving Virai a job gave him purpose, not fear. That mattered more. Her consciousness flickered. Come on, kid, she thought. Hurry. Minutes crawled by. The alarm shifted tone. Then a deep thunk echoed through the passage. Pressure equalizing. Virai did it. Sarah closed her eyes in relief. She exhaled shakily. Sarah. The cub barreled back into view, panting hard. I did it. I did the override. Senior Technician Juro says you re-brave but stupid, but also alive, but we re-coming, and he cut off when he saw her. He scrambled to her side, gripping her hand. Stay awake, please stay awake, you said you would. I'm trying, she murmured. You did amazing, Virai. Real hero work. The cub puffed up again despite his fear. I am Pack, he whispered. Pack protects. Rescue boots pounded closer. Floodlights cut through the flicker. Hands worked to lift the beam. Virai refused to move until a technician physically guided him back. It's okay, Sarah whispered as they lifted her. I'm okay. Virai followed every step. When they loaded her onto the stretcher, he made a desperate noise. Can I go with her, please? The senior technician hesitated, but Sarah croaked. Let him. Virai scrambled up beside the stretcher, gripping the rails. As they pushed her toward medical, Sarah's vision dimmed again. Virai leaned close, his nose brushing her cheek. Human, she forced her eyes open. Golden eyes swam inches from her face, shining with stubborn love. You're awake, he whispered, his voice trembling but hopeful. I missed you. Sarah smiled faintly. I missed you too, kid. Then darkness took her, but this time she knew she would wake again, because she had a cub waiting for her. And a pack that now understood exactly how far a human would go to protect one of their own. The medical bay lights were way too bright. That was Sarah's first thought as she dragged herself back to consciousness. Her second was pain-sharp, hot, and immediate, racing up her leg like wildfire. Her third thought was, where's Virai? A soft chime sounded, and the medbay door slid open. A tall, brusque physician stepped inside. You are awake. Do not move. You've undergone skeletal reconstruction. Sarah tried to speak, but her throat felt like sandpaper. The doctor lifted a bulb of water to her lips. She swallowed slowly. Virai? She rasped. The doctor stiffened, not a good sign. The cub is unharmed. That wasn't the answer she needed. Where is he? Outside, the doctor replied. He has been pacing for 7 cycles. He refuses to leave. But we cannot allow cubs in recovery wards. Let him in, the doctor exhaled. Human Sarah, brusque procedure does not let him in, she repeated, her voice low and cold. The physician straightened, his fur bristling slightly. You do not outrank medical protocol, Sarah met his gaze. He thinks I died, the doctor paused. It was the truth. She could feel it like gravity. Virai had seen her bloody and unconscious, watched medics panic, and saw her taken away. A tiny mind didn't understand stable but unconscious. It only understood abandonment. The doctor's shoulders sagged. I will. See what I can do. He left, but something felt off. Sarah pushed herself up despite the pain, and alarms instantly screamed. Restraints locked her gently but firmly to the bed. She cursed softly. Just as the painkillers began to blur her vision again, there was a thud against the door. A muffled voice erupted. Let me in. Sarah's eyes widened. Virai? Another impact, smaller this time, but frantic. She's awake. I can smell it. Why won't you let me in? A deeper voice answered, irritated. Cub Virai, you cannot enter. I am Pack, let me through. Pride and dread warred inside her. She heard scuffling, and an adult brass guard snarled, Do not bite that. The medbay door slid open. A guard stumbled backward, clutching his arm where a very small but very determined cub had latched on. Virai darted under the guard's legs, sprinted into the room, and froze when he saw her. His ears lifted high. His tail twitched with pure emotional overload. Sarah, she smiled weakly. Hey kid. He launched himself onto the medbed, landing on her abdomen with a soft thwump. Sarah winced but didn't push him off. Virai immediately buried his face in her neck, a full brass hug. His voice shook. They said you were sleeping and stable, but I didn't believe them, because you get quiet when you re-hurt, and I don't like when you re-quiet, and they wouldn't let me in, and slow down, she murmured, stroking his head. I'm here. The guard reappeared, rubbing bite marks. Human Sarah, I apologize. The cub refused all instruction. Sarah smirked. I can see that, Virai growled at the guard, a tiny, high-pitched sound. She needs Pack. The guard rolled his eyes. He has been impossible. Good, Sarah said. Petting Virai means he's learning confidence. The guard muttered something about dangerous human influence, and left. The medbay quieted. Virai wiped his face with his paw. You almost didn't wake. I'm awake now. You smell like pain. Yeah, she admitted. A lot of that going around. He curled against her side carefully. You scared me. I scared myself. After a moment, Virai spoke quietly into her sleeve. When the wall fell, I thought you were gone. And I realized something. Sarah raised an eyebrow. What's that? The cub's ears burned orange-abrask blush. I don't want another senior human. I want you. You're my Pack senior now. She froze. In brass culture, this was unheard of. Huge. Permanent. Virai, she whispered. I already told the elders, he blurted. They argued a lot, but Juro said you earned it. And they finally agreed. Sarah stared. Agreed to what? Virai puffed his chest proudly. You are officially my Pack senior. You get to guide me. And I get to protect you, even when you think you don't need it. Her chest tightened, hurting more than her injuries. Kid. That's a big responsibility. I know, he said seriously. I choose it. Before she could reply, the door hissed open again. 3 towering brass elders entered. Their fur dyed in stripes of authority. The lead elder stepped forward. Human Sarah. Elder Toven. He gave a slow blink of respect. Your actions saved our cub, and your trust in him was unheard of. We do not give advanced tasks to cubs. The elder bowed. We misjudged the human capacity for loyalty. You acted not as an outsider, but as Pack. Virai glowed with triumph. See? I told you. The elder continued. We honor the cub's request. The bond is recognized. You are Pack senior. Sarah's throat tightened. I accept. Virai squeaked happily, climbing halfway onto her chest again. As the elders turned to leave, Toven paused. One more thing. When you are recovered, the cub insists you resume teaching him engineering skills. Sarah blinked. I will. He also insists you move to the Pack quarter, not the human dorms. Virai grabbed her sleeve possessively. You belong with us. Toven's lips twitched in a flicker of brass humor. Prepare yourself, human. Cubs are clingy. The elders departed. Silence returned. Virai snuggled closer, finally calm. You're staying with us forever, he said with sleepy certainty. Sarah brushed a paw ear gently. Looks like I am. As the cub drifted into exhausted sleep, Sarah stared at the ceiling and felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. She belonged. Not as a guest, not as a crew member, but as Pack. And she knew, deep in her bones, she would die before ever breaking that promise. Recovery took longer than Sarah expected. Brask medicine was phenomenal for species with fur, scales, or exoskeletons, not so much for soft-skinned humans with fragile calcium bones. Every day, she endured reconstruction pulses, nerve recalibration, and physical therapy that left her shaking. And every day, Virai was there. He clung to her sleeve. He guarded her medbed. He slept on the floor beside her chair. The cub's loyalty was so absolute that even the med staff started laughing about it. "Doesn't the kid ever rest?" they whispered. But whenever they tried to gently move him away, his ears flattened and he hissed like a cornered animal. Pack was pack. By the end of her third week, Sarah could walk again. She was limping, but upright, a miracle, given how badly her leg had been crushed. She was escorted to her new living quarters, the brass pack sector. The moment she stepped inside, a dozen brass cubs stared at her with awe and curiosity. One tried to poke her leg until Virai smacked his paw away. "She's still hurt, idiot," Virai barked. Sarah bit back a smile. Life settled into a new rhythm. She taught cubs basic glider mechanics and helped adults repair minor tech systems they'd been too stubborn to ask human engineers about. She even learned brass cooking, which involved a lot of violent chopping and one mildly explosive spice. Things were good, too good. Peace never lasts long. Not for humans, and not for anyone willing to stand between danger and a child. It happened during her second month. Sarah and Virai were in the engineering hall, working on his first personal glider, a patchwork masterpiece of metal and cub-level optimism, when the emergency lights flashed red. A station-wide alarm blared. "External breach detected," the automated voice thundered. "Unidentified vessel approaching. All military units to defensive stations." Virai froze. "Sarah?" She placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. "Stay with me!" The hall erupted in shouting. Elder Tovin arrived moments later, his fur bristling. "We are under siege," he announced. "By who?" Sarah asked. The elder's eyes flicked toward her, heavy and uneasy. "The Cracks Dominion," Sarah swore under her breath. The Cracks were ruthless raiders, known for enslaving entire research stations. Virai's ears flattened. "But why here?" Tovin hesitated. "Because they believe we are harboring a human." Silence crashed into the room. Sarah felt her stomach drop. "Me? They're here for me?" "More accurately," Tovin said slowly, "your species. Cracks believe humans possess neurological adaptations they can harvest. Rumors of your survival spread further than we expected." The words hit her like a blow. Virai immediately stepped in front of her, tiny, shaking but determined. "They can't take her." "She's pack," Tovin nodded, his eyes fierce. "Agreed, you are under Brask protection." A loud tremor shook the station. The Cracks were boarding. The Brask warriors hurried into formation. But this was a research station, not a military fortress. "We need to move. Now, Virai." But Virai was already gripping her hand. "Where you go, I go. Not this time," she said urgently. "If they're coming for humans, you're my pack senior," Virai snapped. "If they take you, they take me too," Tovin turned sharply. "No, the cub stays here." "Sarah goes with the escort team to the inner vault." Virai bared his teeth, furious. "No, I'm not leaving her." Sarah knelt, ignoring the pain in her leg. "Virai, look at me." His trembling eyes lifted. "You remember the override? How I trusted you because I knew you could handle it." He nodded. "I need you to handle something even harder." "Stay here. Protect the other cubs." His breath hitched. "But I need to protect you." "You will," she whispered, pressing her forehead gently to his. "By doing what I ask." The cub's body sagged. But finally, he nodded miserably. "Okay," he whispered. Sarah squeezed his paw. "Good. I'll come back." "I promise." She stood and followed the escort team, looking back just once. Virai stood alone, face wet with silent panic. Saving him meant leaving him. She turned away and ran. The escort team moved fast, but halfway down the corridor, the lights cut out. A metallic screech echoed through the walls. A blast door behind them exploded inward. Cracks raiders poured through, tall, spined, armored in shimmering chitin. One pointed at Sarah with a hooked talon. "There! The human!" The corridor turned into chaos. Sarah ducked behind a support beam, heart pounding. Then she saw it. A crack soldier, larger than the others, broke through the defensive line and lunged straight for her. She instinctively grabbed a loose conduit pipe from the wall. The Crack's warrior hissed triumphantly. "Unmodified human. Prime specimen." Sarah swung the pipe. Harder than she ever had in her life. The impact cracked across its jaw with a bone-splitting crunch. The creature staggered. Adrenaline overrode her pain. "You want a human?" she growled, tightening her grip. "Come get one." The Cracks charged. Sarah met it head-on. She didn't feel the fear anymore. She felt Vire, his trust. His tiny body curled beside her bed. His declaration of pact. And something inside her sparked into a fire only humans carry. The crack swung a blade. Sarah blocked it with her forearm, screamed at the burning pain, and jammed the pipe directly into the gap under its jaw. The creature convulsed, then collapsed. Silence fell. Every Brask warrior stared at her. Tovin whispered, stunned. Humans are terrifying, Sarah panted, clutching her burned arm. Only when someone threatens my pack, more cracked screeches echoed down the hall. This wasn't over. But one thing was certain. If the cracks wanted her, they would have to survive the most dangerous thing in the galaxy first. A human protecting her child. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for the next part of the story. Smoke curled through the corridor. Cracks' bodies lay slumped across the metal floor, their chitin cracked by sonic rifles and one very determined human with a conduit pipe. Sarah's burned arm throbbed, but she forced herself upright as the remaining Brask warriors regrouped. Tovin grabbed her shoulder. We must move. The vault is close. Sarah nodded, wincing. Then let's go. But as they rushed forward, she couldn't ignore one gnawing thought. Viri. The cub was supposed to be in the secure chamber, but she knew him. If he thought she was in danger, he wouldn't stay put, and the cracks would kill anything in their path. Her chest tightened. Hold on, kid. Just hold on. Meanwhile, inside the secure chamber, Viri paced like a trapped animal. The chamber was reinforced, sealed from the inside, protected by layers of shielding meant to withstand decompression blasts. A cluster of cubs huddled in the corner, trembling. Adult caretakers tried to soothe them, but fear crackled through the air like static. Viri's heart hammered so loud he could barely hear himself think. Sarah was out there, fighting, bleeding, maybe even alone. He sniffed the air again, the faint, lingering trace of her scent from when she'd embraced him before leaving. It made his throat twist. Viri, whispered one of the younger cubs. Are we all going to die? He turned sharply. No. But the alarms, no, Viri repeated, voice shaking but firm. Because Sarah is out there. And she doesn't lose. A few cubs blinked. Others whimpered. The caretaker tried to intervene gently. Cub Viri, please sit. Panic spreads. Viri's ears pinned flat. I'm not panicking. I'm thinking. That was partially true. He was also shaking uncontrollably. But inside that fear was something else. Something glowing, fierce, unbreakable. Humans called it courage. Brask called it firespine. Sarah had both, and she'd given some to him. Viri marched toward the door. The caretaker lunged. No! You cannot open that door! I'm not opening it, Viri said quietly, placing both paws on the reinforced steel. I'm breaking it. Every adult froze. Impossible, the caretaker whispered. Even adult warriors cannot break a secure clang. The door shuddered. The cubs gasped. Viri bared his small but razor-sharp teeth. If Sarah can fight Cracks Raiders with a broken leg, I can break this stupid door. Clang. He slammed his weight into it again. It didn't dent, but it echoed through the chamber. Cub Viri! The caretaker shouted, grabbing him. Stop this at once! You are endangering everyone. No, Viri snapped. Doing nothing endangers everyone. She needs me. The caretaker tried to pull him away, but Viri twisted free and braced his legs. And then he did something no one expected. He roared. Not a cub's roar. A real one-deep primal vibrating through the floor. It was the sound of a cub declaring himself grown. The caretaker stumbled back in shock. The other cubs stared in awe. And deep in the station's hallways, unaware of the roar's source, Cracks Raiders paused. In the corridor leading to the vault, Sarah gripped her makeshift weapon and followed the warriors deeper into the station. The lights flickered again. We've lost power to the north quadrant, Tovin growled. They're moving faster than expected. A younger warrior glanced nervously at Sarah. Human, can you still fight? She flexed her burned arm. It'll hurt. But yes. Tovin nodded sharply. We defend to the last. They cannot take you. Sarah exhaled. Then let's make that happen. As they rounded a corner, 3 Cracks ambushers dropped from the ceiling vents. One leapt straight at Sarah with a shriek. Sarah reacted instinctively, swinging the conduit pipe upward. Crack! The Cracks' skull slammed the wall, body twitching. The warriors stared. Sarah, one whispered. Are all humans like you? No, she admitted. Some are worse. Another boom rippled through the station closer this time. The escort team quickened the pace until a distant roar echoed faintly through the metal walls. A roar Sarah recognized instantly. Viri, she breathed. Tovin stiffened. No, the cub should be secured. They're trying to break out, Sarah realized, heart pounding. He's coming to find me, another roar answered, louder, stronger, pure brass instinct. Sarah made a decision without thinking. We're going to the secure chambers. Tovin's eyes widened. That is the opposite direction. Then go without me, she snapped. But I'm getting my cub. The warriors exchanged looks, then tightened formation around her. Tovin growled. Brask, do not abandon pack. We follow. Back in the chamber, Viri's roars grew hoarse. He slammed the door again, claws scraping metal. The reinforced barrier held, but small cracks formed around the exterior pressure seal. The caretaker shook with fear. Cub, please, this door is all that protects us if the cracks. It's not enough. Viri screamed. Sarah is out there fighting monsters and I'm hiding like a kid. I won't. He slammed his shoulder again. Pain lanced through him, but he didn't stop, because Sarah wouldn't stop. Then he smelled it. Not the scent of Sarah, the scent of cracks. Close. Inside the chamber ventilation ducts. The caretaker's fur bristled. How? A screech echoed overhead. Viri's blood went cold. A crack scout slithered from the vent, blade appendages clicking. The cubs screamed. The caretaker lunged to protect them, but the cracks knocked him aside effortlessly. Viri didn't think. He moved. He leapt between the caretaker and the cubs, fangs bared, claws out. The cracks hissed in amusement. Small, weak, Viri screamed. Pack is not weak. And he charged. Sarah and the warriors sprinted through the corridors as another roar echoed sharper, panicked. Faster, Sarah yelled. The Brask warriors pushed harder, claws gouging metal. As they neared the chamber wing, Sarah saw smoke, then heard a high-pitched screech, the kind cracks made when they fed. Her heart nearly stopped. She turned the corner and froze. The secure chamber door hung half-detached, dented inward. Smoke drifted from the ceiling joints. Inside, chaos. The caretaker lay wounded. Cubs sobbed. And in the center of the room, Viri, standing over a fallen crack scout, bleeding from a shoulder gash. Chest heaving, eyes blazing with fire spine. The tiny cub roared again, wavering but defiant, ready to fight the next one. Sarah didn't remember moving. She just found herself running faster than she thought her injured leg ever could into the chamber. Viri! The cub's ears shot up. Sarah! He stumbled toward her, collapsing into her arms. She caught him, trembling. He buried his face in her chest furiously. You came back. You came back. I knew you would. She held him tight, ignoring the burning in her arm. Of course I did, you're my cub. He sobbed quietly. Behind her, Brask warriors arrived and surrounded the chamber, snarling at the sight of the wounded caretaker and dead cracks. Tovin spoke, voice trembling with suppressed fury. The cracks have made a fatal mistake. Sarah stood still, cradling Viri. Her voice was low, deadly. They threaten my pack. She looked toward the corridor where more crack screeches echoed. And now we end this? When Maya stepped out onto the observation deck, she expected silence. Instead, she found hundreds. Cubs, parents, warriors, elders, medical staff. Even the stoic fleet commander, who had once shown no emotion, now stood with his 4 hands folded over his chest, the Lyran gesture for reverence. All of them waited. All of them watched the human who had survived when she shouldn't have, who had shielded a cub with her own fragile human body, who had woken and whispered to a shaking child, I'm here. You're safe. Maya swallowed hard. Did I miss something? Commander Tavar stepped forward. Yes, he said, his voice a low rumble. Your entire people have been challenged. Maya blinked. What? He gestured toward the sea of aliens. Word has spread through the fleet. Word of the human who bled for a cub, not her own. Word of the cub who refused to let her die. Word of your charge into a burning reactor corridor with nothing but a maintenance shield. A low murmur of agreement passed through the crowd, a sound of respect and awe. Tavar's voice lowered even further. You may not realize this, Maya of Earth, but an act like this has consequences. Maya crossed her arms, a hint of her usual defiance returning. Let me guess. Interstellar lawyers. To her surprise, several aliens actually laughed a strange chirping sound that somehow eased the tension in the air. No, Tavar said, a flicker of amusement in his multifaceted eyes. Far more serious, his gaze turned intense. You are now a kith-bearer. The entire crowd bowed their heads in unison. The gesture was so sudden, so profound, that it stole the air from Maya's lungs. She blinked, utterly lost. Is that good? A small figure darted out from between the adults. Lyrit, letting go of his mother's hand, rushed toward her, his small face alight with an emotion she couldn't quite decipher. It means, he squeaked, his voice filled with pure joy, that you're family now. Maya froze. Family. The word hit her with the force of a physical blow. Her throat tightened. She had never expected that in space in the middle of a war. In a moment of pure chaos, she would gain a child who ran to her like she was the safest place in the entire universe. She knelt, her own movements slow and deliberate, and caught him in a hug. He felt so small, so real in her arms. Tavar continued, his voice echoing with the weight of ancient tradition. By ancient law, any who become kith-bearers may choose to stay with the clan they swore their life for, or return to their own. His pupils narrowed thoughtfully, studying her reaction. And wherever they choose, that clan becomes honor-bound to protect them for all their days. Maya looked down at Lyrit, who stared back at her with enormous, hopeful eyes. The weight of his gaze, of the entire fleet's gaze, settled on her shoulders. Oh, she whispered, that's a lot. The child's mother stepped forward, her regal crest shimmering with emotion. We know humans do not take binding vows lightly. We have studied your histories. So we ask with respect. She bowed deeply, a gesture of profound deference. What do you choose, Maya of Earth? The deck fell completely silent. Every breath, every heartbeat, every rustle of feathers and chitin and fur stilled. The universe seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her answer. Maya looked around, really looked at the faces in the crowd. These weren't just aliens anymore. They were the beings who had kept Lyrit alive when all hope seemed lost. The ones who'd stayed by her bedside as she fought her way back from death. The ones who accepted her ridiculous, illogical human stubbornness and somehow treated it as the highest form of bravery. She inhaled slowly, gathering her thoughts. I need to be honest, she said, her voice clear and steady. Several of the aliens braced, their posture tensing as if expecting rejection. I've never done anything like this before, she confessed. Never had a clan, never had a child look at me like I matter. Lyrit, hearing this, tightened his grip around her waist, a silent, fierce rebuttal to her self-doubt. But when I ran into that reactor tunnel, her voice softened with the memory. I didn't think. I just saw a cub who needed help. She looked directly at Tavar, then at Lyrit's mother. And I would do it again, every single time. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. It wasn't a sound of shock, but of dawning, profound understanding. Maya placed her hand gently over Lyrit's head, a protective, instinctual gesture. So if you'll have me, I choose to stay. The roar of approval that followed shook the very deck plating beneath her feet. Cubs, suddenly released from their parents' hold, tackled her legs in joyous swarms. Adults thumped their fists over their chests in a powerful, rhythmic salute. The elders began chanting ancient welcome rites, their voices weaving a complex tapestry of sound. Someone began singing, and the melody spread like wildfire deep. Resonant harmonics that vibrated through Maya's very bones. She felt overwhelmed. She felt dizzy. And for the first time, she felt finally like she belonged. But amidst the celebration, one figure remained quiet. Lyrit. He just stared up at her, his small body trembling with an overwhelming emotion. You're really staying? He whispered, his voice barely audible over the din. Maya knelt again, bringing herself to his level, and cupped his face in her hands. She met his overflowing eyes. I'm not going anywhere. Then he said something she didn't expect, something no translation implant could ever blunt the sacred impact of. Can I call you kin, mother? Maya's breath caught in her throat. It wasn't a casual word. It was ancient, sacred, a title given only to the one who guarded a child with both heart and body. Humans had mom. The Lyrans had kin mother, a role bound by a fierce, unbreakable devotion that was the cornerstone of their society. Maya felt hot tears sting her own eyes. "Yes," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, you can." The cub launched himself into her arms with so much force that she fell backwards, laughing through her tears. The crowd cheered even louder, their joy echoing her own. Commander Tevar approached, bowing deeply once more. "Then it is done," he declared, his voice ringing with authority. "Humanity has made its first kith-bearer among us. And you, Maya of Earth, have made your first oath to the stars." Maya exhaled, feeling stunned and incredibly proud. Lyrit tugged insistently on her sleeve. "Kin mother? Yes, kiddo?" He pointed eagerly toward the corridor. "We have a clan feast waiting, and I want to show you my favorite dessert. It's crunchy and makes your tongue numb." Maya grinned, a wide, genuine smile that reached her eyes. "Lead the way," as the cub grabbed her hand and dragged her forward into the heart of the celebration. Maya felt something strange and warm settle over her. For the first time in her life, on an alien ship, surrounded by beings she once feared, she felt like she wasn't wandering anymore.